The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the distinguished gentlelady for yielding, and I want to thank her for her leadership, for being one of the prime co-sponsors of the bill, H.R. 7, along with Ms. Black, Ms. Fox, Mrs. Wagner, Mrs. Blackburn, Mrs. Noem, Mrs. Hartzler, and all the others who have joined in as sponsors of this life-saving legislation. I'd also like to thank Speaker Ryan, Majority Leader McCarthy, Whip Scalise, and Conference Chair Kathy McMorris Rodgers for their extraordinary leadership in defending the most innocent and the most vulnerable among us, unborn children, as well as providing protections for their mothers, and for bringing this legislation, H.R. 7, to the floor. 40 years ago, Madam Speaker, Congress enacted the Hyde Amendment, a law that continues to this day to proscribe federal Medicaid funds from being used to subsidize abortion in most circumstances. More than 20 peer-reviewed studies show that more than 2 million people are alive today, 2 million, because of the Hyde Amendment. 2 million people who would have been aborted instead survived because public funds were unavailable to effectuate their violent demise, while their mothers benefited from prenatal health care and support. 2 million survivors who have had the opportunity to live and to enjoy the most basic and most elemental of all human rights, the right to life. Madam Speaker, we are experiencing a megatrend in America, consistently reflected in polling data, including the most recent polling data for the Marist poll yesterday. That showed that 61% of Americans are against public funding for abortion, and most want, even those who identify as pro-choice, more restrictions to protect the innocent unborn. People are seeing the truth of who abortion actually destroys, as today's proudly shared first baby pictures are most often of ultrasound imaging photos depicting the amazing miracle of the developing child in the womb. Growing numbers of Americans are often shocked to learn that the methods of abortion include dismemberment of a child's fragile body, including decapitation and the severing of arms and legs, or the use of drugs like RU-46 that literally starve the child to death before forcibly expelling her or him from the safety of the womb. Yet the billion-dollar abortion industry continues to cleverly market the cheap sophistry of choice while going to extraordinary lengths to cover up, ignore, and trivialize the battered victim child in the womb. Madam Speaker, pro-life Americans struggle for the day when abortion violence will be replaced by compassion and empathy for women and respect for the weak and most vulnerable among us, the child in the womb. They believe, as do my pro-life colleagues, that we ought to love them both, mother and child, and not fund the destruction of children through abortion. Lawmakers also need to hear the courageous voices of women who are silent no more, a rapidly expanding number of women who share the heartbreaking agony and heartbreak that they have endured after procuring an abortion. As I mentioned yesterday, there was a poll that came out, and again it found that 61% of Americans oppose taxpayer funding for abortion, and only 35% support it, which is precisely what we seek to accomplish with enactment of H.R. 7. It would make the Hyde Amendment and other current abortion funding restrictions permanent and government-wide. I would note parenthetically that soon after the Hyde was enacted in 1976, other abortion funding riders were enacted into law, and Hyde itself was upheld by the Supreme Court in 1980. In 1983, I authored the ban on funding abortion in the Federal Employees Health Benefits Program. Most must be renewed legislatively each and every year. This legislation would make it permanent. The legislation ensures that the Affordable Care Act, until repeal, conforms with the Hyde Amendment. I would remind my colleagues that just a few feet from where I stand on September 9, 2009, and I have his speech right in front of me, the President of the United States said, and I quote, "And one more misunderstanding I want to clear up. Under our plan, no federal dollars will be used to fund abortions, and federal conscience laws will remain in place. Well, on the latter, the conscience clause remained in place, but they were just simply not enforced. And of course, we know now, as my good friend Ms. Cheney mentioned, we know that according to the GAO, because people kept saying in the early years, oh, there's no funding, public funding for abortion. So we asked GAO to look into it. They came back and said there is much, over 1,000 plans paid for abortion on demand.
If the gentleman would suspend, the gentleman's time has expired.
I thank the chair.